Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Hello, everybody. It's Lynda Lippin, and welcome back to yet another episode of the Pilates Goddess podcast. I am so thrilled to be able to bring this content to you with these fabulous guests, as well as I'm hoping, some fabulous solo informational episodes, and bring this to you twice a week. I am really enjoying the process, and I thank you for listening. My guest today is once again somebody that I've been connected to online for more than a decade. And as usual, with the online space, we feel like we've known each other forever. We will probably have a very friendly discussion as always. But this is the first time that we are actually looking at each other, even over a computer or phone screen, and saying hello. So today, I bring you the wonderful Alyson Limehouse, the CEO of Rollology Fitness. Now, Alyson was first introduced to Pilates in 1997 by her midwife after she gave birth to her daughter. And a year later, she became a client and instantly fell in love with it. And that same year, she traveled from South Carolina to Polestar in Miami and got her rehabilitation training and became a certified Pilates instructor. Now, she returned to South Carolina, worked at the same studio where she started. And in the year 2000, Alyson relocated to Palm Beach, Florida, where she opened her own studio, Sunset Pilates Fitness. She has conducted various workshops throughout the country, including Florida, South Carolina, and Arizona, and continued, of course, her own education because we do that. She became one of the first 12 people to actually attend Lolita San Miguel's Master's Mentor Certification Program and became certified as a second-generation master instructor under Lolita. Some of you may know that Lolita is one of only two people that Joseph Pilates actually certified to teach Pilates before he passed away. Alyson is very passionate about the art of sculpting the body through a balanced blend of strength and flexibility training, improving posture, reducing stress, and creating long, lean muscles without bulk. And like Lolita, Alyson is a strong believer that each client's workout should be customized by their body type and skill set. She founded Rollology in 2015. And we today are going to get a little more of that story of why the roller, why Rollology, why the name Rollology. And we are also going to have a discussion about how to avoid burnout as a fitness professional and Pilates teacher, and how to fill our toolbox with things that are not too expensive going in and provide a maximum in financial return. Now, Alyson, I just have to say to you that I'm totally with you on that one. And, when I was at Parrot Key in 2008 during that economic crash, which we all might remember, what I elected to do that year, because I was the fitness and Pilates teacher, was I came to New York on my annual vacation. And I brought back with me kettlebell training and TRX because, I was already teaching the Pilates and already doing, and I already had all my rollers and all of that. But I wanted to bring in something that was, no one knew TRX then. That was brand new. And I wanted to bring stuff that would be really low landed cost in the Caribbean, but that would make its money back very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think a lot of times Pilates teachers don't think about that. We're sort of set into this world of it's going to be 5 figures to open your studio. And let's try to make that back. So welcome, Alyson.
PM every day.
Right. So welcome to the Pilates Goddess, Alyson. Anything else you would like us to know about you before we get started?
No, I think you covered a lot. Yeah, I'm just happy to be here. This is awesome. And I love the name, the Pilates Goddess.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I've had like the Pilates Goddess blog. I've had pilatesgoddess.com for probably the last 15 years.
Uh-huh.
Even when I haven't used it, I've just, I just got that domain name and held on to it. Now,
Yeah, somebody else will grab it if you don't keep it.
Exactly. So let's actually start with Rollology, because that's really what you right now are most known for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's your brand and it's workouts that you've created. And just before we came on to the recording, we were talking about some new kind of sunrise and sunset sequences that you have planned for folks. So talk to me a little bit about why the roller, first of all.
Okay. Well, first, when I was taking Pilates, we worked on the rollers. I didn't understand. It didn't even enter my head whether it was Joe Pilates or Feldenkrais or whatever. And then when I went to Polestar, Elizabeth Larkin was a part of Polestar, and the roller was just all in there. And I never, I had, my brain is a little different, I feel, than other people. So I never connected Feldenkrais, the roller, even though I know it was Feldenkrais in the roller, but I never connected whether Joe or not had rollers in his studio, just until Lolita pointed out, no, he didn't. It's not Pilates, but she uses rollers too. In fact, I bought her first box of rollers, so it just always was woven into my personal Pilates experience as an instructor and as a client, because I was a client first, and so what happened with me being my little single mom self and working my ass off, and I was making top dollar, even though I was green, but because of my location, I was able to kind of keep my hourly rate up. But at the same time, if you don't show up to work or if your client doesn't show up to just whatever, you sometimes don't have money at the end of the day. So I started buying boxes of rollers and selling them to my client. Those white ones that kind of are, that, they can last 10 years, or they can last 3 days. You never knew. But I was buying the rollers and selling them to my clients and saying, this is homework you can do, blah, blah, blah. And I remember asking a client of mine, it's still my client. And I because of Rollology and our repertoire, he had rotator cuff surgery and he's completely healed from it. And he's in his 70s. But I would say, hey, Alex, are you using your roller? And he'd go, I look at it every day in his house. I'm like, that doesn't work. But he knows better now, because, he knows he has to move to stay supple and keep his range of motion. But so I was buying and selling them at my studio in Palm Beach, and to make extra money and to give the clients something to do at home, or if they were going to go on a trip, they could throw it in the back of their car, or in my case, they have planes and helicopters they can throw. But it was a tool that they can take and not get so stiff while they're traveling, and keep up their practice. So I started with Lolita in her PMMP program. As you said, I was in Group A, very, very, I'm flattered, but at the same time, again, I was just at the right place at the right time. A lot of this stuff was being at the right place at the right time, not even realizing my opportunities that were unfolding in front of me. And so I started with her. and doing the PMMP. And the first day, my studio in Palm Beach, it's the oldest studio on the island. I recently sold it, but it has two reformers, Cadillac, Wonder Chair, Pedipole, spine corrector, rollers, kind of everything that you need, but not the row of reformers that we're used to now. Nobody did a reformer class in my studio ever. And so even when I had duos, they would go around and do different things. So that was my teaching. Very hands-on, very one-on-one. My eye was right on them, looking at what they were doing. So when I started with the PMP with Lolita, there were 12 of us, 12 instructors from all over the world. And I had to get them to teach 12 people. And, and Lolita, she said, put me in my place and said, and she knew my studio, she'd been in there enough. And she said, you got to fix this. So what I did was I went across the river to West Palm Beach to a dance studio, and the girls couldn't have been nicer. They're like, oh, you can do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8, and just give us a percentage. And so I started doing mat classes. And one day I just decided to grab a box of rollers in the car because I was like getting bored, and and the group was good. They're 30 somethings, young moms and all that. And I just grabbed a box of rollers one day, and then they loved it. And so I sold them each their roller. And so the goal was they were supposed to do homework with their roller, but they left their roller in the car so they'd have it for the class. So had to do it. And what I would always say, and it's changed a bit in the last basically 10 years or so, is that, and Lolita said, well, we drive, we watch TV, but I was like, now we text, we're at the computer. And so what we do a lot of is putting the roller behind people and working out with the roller. And we get into our personal own neutral spine the best we can.
No, everyone has to know that we are laughing because before we started recording, Alyson and I had a discussion about neutral spine, which is one of my favorite topics. But we both agreed in the end that every single human being has their own personal place of kind of middle ground neutral. And yes, that tools like the roller can really help us find it and kind of work into it in a way that can be very useful.
Yeah, and I feel like it's more important right now than ever. And I had this one exercise. It's called Roll Like a Dog, and you sit on the end of the roller, and you go in parallel, hitting your middle toe alignment. And we have red ends, so you want to sit on the roller so you don't see the red end. That way, most people, when they lay down on the roller, their head is on the roller. Mm-hmm. Tell them, lay there, let it open, roll around like a dog on his back in the grass. And it just opens everything back up. And it really, that works. Just that right there works. The whole repertoire works, but that right there, it just undoes you from being at the computer all day or just texting all day. My aunt, I just spent a week with her, and she showed me pictures of her grandchildren. They were just like, folded
bent over. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's like, my goodness, we're going to have problems with this next generation. And I'm like, yeah, we are. And, unless they do Rollology or even Pilates or anything to teach them how to, get out of flexion all the time. So,
right. Now, so obviously, the concept starts with you the Pilates, you're working with Alita, you're teaching classes, you're teaching bigger groups, you're realizing that the roller is kind of a great tool. And I'm sure at that point you were also trying to think of ways to not just be trading dollars for hours.
That exactly.
Right? Because that's a big, I mean, that was the whole thing in 2020, was that everyone who was simply trading dollars for hours, and suddenly there wasn't the ability to actually do that anymore, was in trouble.
Yeah.
And anyone, because let's face it, you know this as well as I do, that when you spend 5 figures outfitting your studio with beautiful equipment, you are going to want your clients to use that equipment and get the money back on that equipment. So, you know, what I found was, I mean, you saw it, we saw it in all the Facebook teacher groups, right? Around summer of 2020, when everyone realized this like wasn't going away quickly and we kind of really had to deal with it, was everyone was posting, how exactly do I charge my clients well for mat online when I've been telling them for the last 5 or 10 years that the equipment was so much better than the mat? And I remember thinking to myself, well, you kind of created that little situation for yourself now, didn't you?
Yeah, you have to change your spiel. But yeah, I honestly feel that we pay for our education. The equipment's great, but you can teach somebody, and if you're not equipped with the eye or the education, you can hurt them on a reformer, you can hurt them on the mat, you can hurt them on a roller, you can hurt them just doing
you can hurt them doing a squat. I mean, if you don't really know what you're doing. So
I mean, I hear that. I actually was teaching online before all the COVID stuff because I felt like that was the future. I had looked at Agroscu and talked to them. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I know Agroscu, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't practice it or anything, but what I did was I talked to them, and they charge $250 a session, and most of it's online. And I was like, this is interesting. So I actually had a girlfriend. I sent her a roller. I said, let's do this. And, and it worked. Lo and behold, And,
so the Rollology name obviously harkens a little bit back to contrology. It brings us back to Pilates. Now, when you put this together, obviously at some point you had to put a curriculum together.
Yes.
Right, because you do teacher training, you do continuing education workshops, as well as teaching clients. So with Rollology, you're sort of giving teachers the right entire kind of system in a way, right, where they're using the branded rollers. They then have a curriculum of exercises, right, that they can give their clients. And I think it is in this curriculum writing or curriculum creating phase that is very daunting to a lot of Pilates teachers, right? Partly because, it really depends on your I think it partly depends on your training, right? But at least for most folks with classical training, you're sort of handed the curriculum, right? I mean, really, in all the teacher trainings you are, but I find that generally the classical Pilates trainings kind of really have their shit together on curriculum. Here's the order of the exercises. Here's the beginning. Here's the intermediate. Here's this. Here's what we're doing on each piece of equipment. Here's how it all feeds together. Here's, why this is harder than that. And here are different ways to do modifications and variations, as we need. And so then when it comes to, say, doing an education course or putting together not just a workout, but an actual business and course creation and online delivery and deliverables and timeframes and all of these things that really, if you want to be recognized for continuing ed, you have to put together because people expect to see it. How daunting was that? How difficult was that kind of phase of it?
It was very hard. I had gotten Patty, another PMMP person, to write my books. She wrote Lolita's, but we rewrote, and there's still some things that I want to go in there and scratch out. And now most of the new stuff we are putting online. But yeah, there's so many things. When I started, I thought this would be like, I thought I'd be like on easy street by now, and not. I am speechless. It was just so daunting to get through that book. I'm also dyslexic, so I can't read it, but you had to sit there and say, with our roller, you put your, we have visual cues. So you put your hand on the O or the LOL, and then, and then you have to sit a certain way, hand goes here, watch, point, what you got to watch for, what to look for, certain cues, what cues work, which ones don't work. In the order, like you said, and a lot of people like kind of that creative feeling vibe, to put things where they want. And then also you have a client that may not be able to do it in the order that's in the book. So you have to teach them, okay, well, whatever you do, just do this first, And so that's a couple of things, because I realized doing this myself for years, there might be something that we do that might confuse the next exercise. Does that make sense? So if you're going to do, we have something called fly butterfly. If you do fly butterfly, do not do resting butterfly before it, because they will be set up incorrectly in their head and their body memory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they'll be more open and stretched instead of being ready to kind of work the muscles. Yeah. Before you use them. That's, it's something that I was actually thinking about this the other day, because I was reading through a thread in a Facebook Pilates teachers group, and it was a good thread, but that's what people were asking about was, if I have a client who has like really tight calves and weaker hamstrings or whatever, how should I handle this? And she was saying that what she was originally doing was pre-stretching the client. And I was like, and I kind of just came in there and said, don't stretch your client before your client does any work. Like you can't do that, because then you're you're stretching a muscle that's relatively cold, which is, a bad idea in the best scenario. But secondly, then you want those muscles to work.
Exactly.
And you've just like elongated them, and then you're going to try to shorten them again and expect them to, keep doing this. Meanwhile, your client's brain has no idea what's going on, and not in a good way. Like, because I'm not a fan of the whole muscle confusion situation either. Because I'm like, our muscles don't get confused, our brains get confused. And if your brain is confused, that's not good.
Right. And that, like some of these dancers, and including Lolita, they got all this itinerary of like all these movements, and it's all very lovely. But I'm like, the way I learn is like, well, okay, 1, 2, let's just like, it's slower for me to get my body, my mind, and connection going. So I have to think about it. And I work very meticulously when I'm working myself out and when somebody's teaching me, and I'm very slow. That's just because I don't want to get injured. I want to do it right. And it takes my mind a minute or two to get it connected to the body to do it right, and that's just, but
now once you got through that though, once you got through that kind of initial writing down of everything and getting the kind of programs and everything together. And then we're able to start kind of teaching the workshops. Then I'm sure the experience is different, right? Because then it becomes a tiny bit more of a lather, rinse, and repeat.
Little bit. We're still writing new material. We're still creating new material. And something that we didn't realize, I mean, the roller got branded by a branding company. And when I was teaching a workshop, we were like on all fours or whatever. And somebody's like, well, put your hand on the O, put your hand on the L. One of these students. So now it's a whole part of the curriculum. So if you're teaching, whether online, in person, or a group, first of all, we say hard over there if you're on all fours. And of course, if it's a bigger guy or something, you're on the O and the G, but most people are on the L and the O. So if they're doing something where they're extending out and they come back and they can see the O is right there. They're not going to be putting it way over here. But sometimes if there's no letters, they get a little confused. It's easier to go out of alignment.
So inadvertently, you were then able to start really doing external cueing, which is, something that we've been talking so much about, even within the Pilates studio, right? Is cueing to reach towards the bar or reach away from the poles or reach, to this thing or to this object.
Yeah, we do 12, 6, 3, and 9 a lot. And so my clients, they know where 12 is, they know where 6 is, lengthen out to 12 and 6, put your hand back on the O, put your hand on the L, things like that. So it's really boom, boom, boom now. I mean, they still got to think about it, but they can look and see where they're putting their hand instead of, oh, is this right? I mean, am I in right alignment? And especially if you're online or in a group class, you can't monitor everybody, but you can certainly look down and see if their hand or their foot is on an L or a G or a Y. And it makes it so much easier for the instructor and for the client, because we all have, as instructors, we get frustrated, and clients certainly get frustrated. And if they can say, oh, yeah, I know how to do that. Oh, yes, I can put my hand on the L. I'm doing it right, So,
making things easier, first of all, for everybody is a huge piece of not burning out.
Exactly.
And that's what, I'm always saying this to other Pilates professionals, who I'm working with, say, through Pilates Teacher Mastermind, where I'm like, if you are finding that you're having to re-explain the wheel every single session, every single client, then there's something going on with how you're talking.
Or, you have to, the way I look at it too is people learn 3 ways: auditory, visual, and tactile. And they're a bit of some of them are all auditory, all visual, but you have to be able to weave and junk and jive and get all 3 of them across for most people. So I really, and I'm a very touchy instructor for the most part, if I got you in person, but I have to I always work on, over time, the audio and then the visual, and the whole thing now, it's all about, for Rollology, 12 and 6, 3 and 9. And we even have things where we roll the head over and look at the R and shake our head. And so we do a lot of eye movement and stuff as well for the visuals. And one thing that I want to stress too about the burnout thing and making money is what I do is, when you become a rollologist, licensed rollologist, you get a pack of rollers, and we're going to, like I said, we're going to start this thing called Rise and Shine, Rest in Peace. So your client gets a roller, it's $58 retail, you get it at a discount price. And what I recommend, I say it's like $95, you get 10 people, boom, right there for the rise and shine. Well, not rise and shine, rest in peace. Sunrise, sunset, 5 minutes. I have to, yes, I pick in my like my little tracks like everybody else. But so what I want them to do is have this tool. And I'll tell you about another one, but they can do a workshop and right away they can make either all or most of their money back from the workshop, from the certification training with Rollology, by one workshop that they teach for an hour and a half. And that workshop is they get their roller, the clients get their roller, they have their own roller, they take care of their own roller. You don't have to worry about cleaning it. You don't have to worry about their monkeypox or COVID or whatever. It's their roller. They take it home. They take care of it. They bring it in. They can wrap their mat around it if they want to bring it in. But they get their roller and they learn a little 5 to 10 minute routine before they go to bed to get all their angst and their stress out from the day. And then they have a 5 to 10 minute routine in the morning, sunrise, where they, if they sleep all decrepit or funky, they can roll it out, basically roll it out, do different movements, and voila, they feel better. And if they do it every day, it does work. It works. And it's a great way for instructors to make their money back ASAP, and if you have 10 people coming to you already, it's just more money and more tools for them so they don't get bored, something they can do at home without you. And you've already made $750 or $950, to go to your education, to go back to your studio and that kind of thing. Another thing.
Right. I mean, I also feel like, because let's face it, there's so much continuing education out there right now that I feel like folks do it just to do it, because a lot of times, I mean, unless you're specifically working with a population that has, and I don't know, like I started teaching Pilates in 1989. Okay. So it was like, nobody was teaching Pilates then. We spent half the time just explaining what the hell it was.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't some like torture device thing, because people would look at that equipment and be like, I don't even want to know.
I got years later. So yeah.
Right. And then I got through, we kind of got through all of that situation, but realistically, we ended up kind of working with everybody, there weren't as many teachers. So it wasn't like, I mean, now if I get, say, women with diastasis recti and hernia, which used to be my specialty, come to me. Mm-hmm. I don't teach that anymore. I teach women over 50 with pain and osteoporosis. I teach my people, right? And I just send them to another teacher. I'm like, here's Alyson online, who can see you online. And has a host of people certified, in her program. Here's, somebody right over at Real Pilates, who might be able to see you if you want a live session. Here's somebody else, and I just refer them out because I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Now, what I find is that teachers sort of feel like they, once again, need to be able to like work with everybody, right? And that then creates these sometimes continuing education courses that I feel like, you're going to get a client with MS or a spondylo or something like that, basically maybe 4 times in your career, unless you're really pushing for that market.
I've had 2 MS people.
Right. But I mean, this is over, we've both been teaching for a number of decades, and I've had them too, but we're talking, 2, 3, 4. Back in our day, you just went to the library and got a book and learned what you needed to learn and spoke to some doctors and at least figured out what not to do. And then, then it's easy to kind of figure out what to do. And, I feel like kind of what you're doing with Rollology is actually in a way much more useful because you're giving Pilates teachers a tool that really kind of allows them to put a lot of the work into their clients' pockets, which is nice. So there's some accountability there as well, right?
For a piece of apparatus.
Yes. And, realistically, it's stuff that probably 95% of the population can do.
Realistically, yes. Unless they're Orange Theory CrossFit, they fall off the roller.
Right.
Sorry, I had to put that in there. Because I always enjoy that when, we got these guys coming in and they feel like they're like, we got the old ladies with the little silver hair and they're able to do it. And I've had firefighters, all kinds of people, competitive bodybuilders, and they're like, why can't I stay on the roller? And I'm like, you have no intrinsic muscles. They're like, I got a 8-pack. I'm like, that's not what we're talking about.
Well, and a lot of them, their biceps are so tight that they can't even straighten their elbows, let alone get their elbows down, on the mat. I mean, there's that whole piece of it as well.
Yeah.
So you're right. I mean, Rollology is also going to, I think, attract a kind of more inclusive market in a way. You're right. So that you're offering work that doesn't involve all this big equipment, doesn't involve thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
That was, a lot of it was affordability for the instructors. Bottom line, that's what I wanted was because I did a boutique training before Lolita started Lolita Legacy because I needed instructors. I was in the time where there were no good instructors. And in Palm Beach, there was, and I hate I'm kind of throw Palm Beach under the bus, but you had instructors that didn't know what the hell they were doing, and they were charging top dollar just because of where they were, and a lot of people got hurt. And to be honest, it's still going on there, but this is something that you can take and apply at a decent price. But so anyways, let me get back to what I was saying with the boutique stuff. And these girls or these women and would come in and I'd be like, this is a lot of money. This is a lot of time. And they didn't get it. They thought they did, but when it came down to it, when I'm like, you need to come in and observe, you're going to be my best friend. And my clients actually are very cool. They would let somebody come in and watch them and help and assist, and it worked out really well. But for a few, most of them didn't go through. And no offense to nail techs or anybody like that, but it's not painting toenails. Somebody can break a jaw. Somebody could have a lifelong injury. And so, I mean, I enjoyed doing it. I really liked it a lot, but I saw a good many instructors just freak out. Well, instructors to be just freak out and not be able to pull it together to do it. So Rollology not only can be a tool for, I call them veteran instructors, it can be a step in the door because you're not investing so much money. Mm-hmm. It's harder for someone to get hurt on the roller. I mean, I'm sure you can do it if you really wanted to. But it's affordable and it's not so time consuming, and you learn the basics, the foundation of the Pilates work. A little bit of a different twist, but it does really work, and so it's affordable. And then the clients can there's a couple of things that instructors can do. They can buy the rollers at the rollologist price, sell them to their clients for homework, or they can do a class, but the clients still have their roller and they bring the roller in because I did a lot, because my studio is small. I did Rollology classes at the West Palm Beach Library. I would do them outside. I would go to people's homes. And so, I mean, I'm not going to carry 10 rollers to the library 3 times a week. They buy their own roller and bring it in, and they wrapped it up with their mat, and they would just walk in with it, and they took care of it, and they took it home. And if they wanted to, whatever, if they wanted to leave it in the car, if they wanted to use it, if they wanted to clean it, or if they wanted to leave it dirty, they could do whatever they want. So that's one way to make money. And then we also have our clothing. So you could, usually when you have something on, somebody's like, I want that. So you can sell them the clothes. You make money off of that. And then the toe bands. I wanted to bring up the toe bands before Lolita came in. And it was my first, before she started the PMMP, she had moved here, and I think she called different studios, and I met her at a little Pilates gathering, and we would chat, and I set up a point for her to come to my studio and work me out. So I worked out so hard. I got as flexible. I got my abs as strong as I could get them. And I just all right, I am ready for Lolita San Miguel to come teach me. She has me sit up on the Cadillac in neutral spine, and she tells me to spread my toes. I could not spread my toes for anything. And so she told me how to, she said, get a ball, start doing this. And she said, get a broccoli band. So I started getting broccoli. I started using it with my clients. And my dad's a produce broker. So I said, when I decided that I really wanted to take it a step further, I contacted the band people, and I talked to one of his people, and they told me, gave me some names and numbers, and we came up with something kind of smooth, something that looks good, something that says Rollology on it. And it's not just stretched out like a broccoli band, and it's not dirty like a broccoli band. So you can do a foot. I like to do foot toe and Vinos. You can do a foot toe and T, foot toe and Vino, and they get a Rollology band, and they pay like $50, $75. I had one girl make what'd she make? $750 in one night. From a foot toe and Vino, and they work. And
foot toe and Vino, I'm totally seeing it.
Yeah. It's not like you're working out. You're just sitting there. You can have your wine. Usually we wait till after, but you don't have to. I mean, most of it.
You can drink wine and do toe corrector work at the same time. Totally.
Sure. And then I've hooked up with a podiatrist, Dr. Suzanne Fuchs, here in the Palm Beach area. And she came to me, and so we started working together. So sometimes she'll come to the foot toe and Vinos and explain things, and people just love it, and why this works from a podiatrist. And she just feels like everything is preventable. And she did turn me on to something that Lolita used to tell it to me all the time. Don't wear flip-flops. Don't wear flip-flops. And I had these flip-flops that were like platform and bedazzled. And she would have me stand up and show them to everybody. And everybody go, oh, this is so cute. And she's like, they're deadly. And so when I started talking to the podiatrist, she was like, Alyson, flip-flops are the cigarettes as shoes. And I'm like, and that's what got me. And I realized that I would throw on a pair of flip-flops, go to the studio, take them off, but I was wearing them 352 days in the year? I would day. I'm in South Florida, and so I switched to Tevas, actually. So I have the strap on the back. And so we go over all kinds of what shoes to wear, what shoes not to wear. And then here in Palm Beach, it's an older clientele. And the good thing about having an older clientele, you can see the worst of people's bodies and the best. And I tell you, I have seen some pretty bad feet. And they don't like to take their socks off. I like to work so they get in my studio, everybody works barefoot so they can actually feel what's going on with the bar and the straps and their feet. And they don't want to show their toes. So I kind of try and talk them off a cliff, and then I can see their feet. And some of them, you couldn't even see their toenails because they were so curled over. And that's hammer toe. So we have little straps and we pull and we show them. And we had one lady, they were just so curled over. It was horrible. And it got so, those little toenails just started creeping out a little bit, and but she times a day. I mean, she did not want to have surgery. She could barely walk. She couldn't wear any cute shoes. She only could wear one pair of sneakers. And, it gets sad, but they do work. And again, the instructor makes money. That's, I burnt myself out so bad. And I did. Looking back on it, I probably didn't need to go that route. But what I do with the Rollology is I give you the graphics for, kind of a little media kit. So you have everything there. You have the templates to teach for the workshops. You've got your workbooks. You got your rollers. So you can do these workshops, make your money. And then also incorporate it into your classes or create a Rollology class, or we have Rollology and the Reformer. There's so many things. It's very versatile. And so it's like just as much for the instructor as it is for your client's body.
So Alyson, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Rollologyfitness.com. There's a couple of things going on. We've got some workshops coming up. One is online in December. I'm going to be presenting at the PMA. If anybody's going to the PMA, I'm Thursday at 2:00. And then we have a booth at the PMA. Lolita she's going to slide into my booth and do some book signings for people. If anybody's interested in that, she's got a wonderful book out. And then my biggest news is we're going to be doing a Rollology training and retreat in the Bahamas, January 26th for about 4 days. And it is at Firefly Sunset Resort in Hopetown in the Abacos. And
is that and is there do I have the link for that? Did you give me the link for that?
Be ready to go by the weekend. I just got back from there. I'm very lucky. It's my aunt's resort, and it's a little boutique Bahamian resort, but very I was there. Best food in the Caribbean is what people were saying with the restaurant. And you've got, you have it's a very interesting place, but you have people, that have just flown in on their private plane. And then you have the locals there, so it's nice. It's safe. We would have almost the full resort, a small resort to ourselves. And we have what else do we have? It's just gorgeous, but there'll be an excursion where we take a boat. I haven't quite figured it out. We might go to the lighthouse. We might go snorkeling. It just depends on the weather. But I think
by the time people are listening to this and this goes live, there'll be a link, and the link will be in the show notes, so that if people want to register for this, they can. And also, you guys, I mean, I met Alyson via social media. She's all over Facebook. She's all over Instagram. She's on LinkedIn. You can't not find her. I will put links to all of her social media as well in the show notes, as well as, a link to Rollology and the events. And thank you so much, Alyson, for joining me today. And thank you to everybody who's listening. And as always, I'm going to encourage you, if you are enjoying the podcast, to just get your butt on over to the Apple Podcast app or to Spotify and leave a rating and a written review. It'll take you about 2 minutes, and it's super helpful for me and for the show and for everybody. So I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.